Welcome, everyone. How are we doing tonight?
Very good, Ken.
Doing great.
Yeah.
So this is your capstone class for a lot of you. So you guys are out of here.
Yeah.
Nice. So let's turn your cameras on. See everybody eating dinner. And all the bad COVID haircuts. Except for Aaron's haircut, it's not too bad. All right, we got more people trickling in, so we will give it a few more moments. Any questions, concerns about the class? Any question, Pauline?
No, sorry.
Just playing with the camera. Okay, good.
Yes, I have a question, Prof. Sir.
Sure.
It's regarding selection of firms. My group and I were just we're still kind of trying to figure out which firms would qualify as very good candidates to review. We're kind of wondering what you are looking at, right? In terms of, because most of us are not conversant with the business landscape in Riverside. So we're kind of looking at what would you be expecting? Can we look elsewhere? Or would for instance, would a small hair salon, right, that has approximately 20 employees suffice?
Actually, that would be an excellent choice. I'm going to go over a little bit about that in class today. So I will answer a lot of your questions.
All right, thank you.
Problem. But yeah, the key for consulting is being able to get the ear of the decision maker, the person who's running the company, the CEO or the owner. Most times, some people don't set their company up as a corporation, so technically they're not a CEO, they're just the owner. So it all depends. But definitely you want to be able to have access to the decision maker and then be able to not influence them, but be able to work with them and be able to communicate with them on a regular basis. That's going to be the most difficult problem that you're going to have, especially working with small businesses or medium-sized businesses, because many of you have parents who own businesses. I found this out last class that I did this, and the parents are going to look at you like you guys don't know anything, even though you're getting an MBA, right, in business. You still don't know anything compared to your parents or compared to the business owner. And many small business owners are going to take that kind of attitude. So we'll speak a little bit about that. Does somebody want to add something about that? Anybody, parents here own businesses?
Kenny, this is Riase. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. I sent you an email about a week ago I am the owner, quote unquote, owner of a nonprofit. And that's my passion. And that's what I requested I was going to want to do my capstone on. And if there are other students here who might be interested in a nonprofit, I'll be very glad if they would contact me.
Okay. So anybody here's parents own companies or have a small business they want to share?
Oh, but by the way, my nonprofit is a church. So.
Okay, so I think that's pretty much everybody. We got 51 people. I think our class is enrolled 54, and we can take 60 in this class. So shall we get started? All right. And if you haven't turned on your camera, please do so we can participate and see everybody. I always like to see everybody's face. Makes it easier to talk to you.
Hey, Professor. I noticed that this class is being recorded, but also live on YouTube. Why is that? How come it's live?
Because I have a YouTube channel, so it's easier to put a link to the YouTube channel than it is to actually do the recording. But okay. I record it and then I post it on iLearn in week 1. So if you want to review the class, you can. Is that okay? Anybody have any objections?
Yes. Yes, thank you.
No problem. Okay. All right. Other questions, concerns? As people are slowly trickling in. All right. I get a few more people coming in. All right, well, let's get started. All right, we're going to start with, let's see here. So everybody read the syllabus, the course description. Basically, we're all consultants in this class, and many of you have already gone into your groups, and we'll go over that a little bit later. So you already set up probably a group me or some kind of a WeChat or something so you can communicate with each other. That's always a good thing. And pretty much this is all 100% online. We have the class that's going to meet Thursday from 7 to 9:50. So I will lecture a little bit at the beginning of the class, and then you guys are going to give your presentations. So each week, be prepared to do a presentation. Probably not everybody's going to be able to do it. But if I call on you, you're going to be ready. And basically the presentation is going to be the stuff that we worked on the previous week that you would give to the CEO or the owner of the company as kind of an update of what's going on with your consulting project. Okay. So that pretty much covers that. When you pick your companies, I'm going to have you get some ideas of what companies you guys want to do and put it in your sheet, the shared document that has all your groups on there. I put up space so you can put some companies in there. So think about the companies you want to do, put them in there, kind of have a group discussion about which ones you think would be best. But the best ones is usually whoever gives the CEO access to the CEO and to the financials. The financials are not always a big thing because a lot of small companies are not willing to share the financials. So if they say no, don't press it. That's something that a lot of small companies probably won't want to do. So the objective of this course is to make you guys all great consultants. So using all the strategic management courses that you've taken and all the strategic to solve strategic problems in businesses. We're actually going to put that into use this quarter. So you learn to apply principles which grow a firm, identify problems, and give suggestions and solutions on how to overcome those problems. Okay, you're also going to learn how to work into teams. Not that you guys haven't been doing that all this time, but you're going to doing consulting is a little bit different when you're working in teams because everybody has a lot of different ideas. So you have to come to learn how to share your ideas and how to come up with the best idea. Course material are basically 2 books. They're very, very similar when it comes to the way you consult. Flawless Consulting we will tackle first. Pretty easy read. I reread both of them within a week. That's among having a full-time job and preparing for another class and all that other stuff. So they're pretty easy reads, and they're very similar to each other as they take into considerations the feelings and the people that you're consulting with. You have to work with the people, not just the problem. Other recommended readings, a lot of McKinsey stuff. There's a lot of stuff, Boston Consultant, McKinsey, even Harvard Business School has quite a few things out there. Okay, so the most important thing everybody wants to know, presentations and papers going to be 40% of your grade, class and team participation, 10%, midterm and final, 25%. The midterm's just going to be, midterm and final is just going to be like a consultant update of what's going on with your project. And then you will let me know. I kind of outlined it a little bit more. The grading is pretty much how we're going to do it this way. The presentations, 40%. So each team will be giving a presentation and a 2-page paper every week. Basically, what it is an update of what your consulting group is doing. The Pichakucha, I don't know if I pronounced that right, is a way to present very short, very distinctly, and getting to the point very quickly. Something I'm not very good at and something that my slides don't actually do. But I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to do a detailed slide. So when you guys go back and look over the slides, there's a little bit more detail to them. Class participation, 10 points. Presentation critique, everybody is going to critique their fellow students, and we're not going to do this, you're going to do this to help them so they become better presenters and better communicators. Okay, so that's pretty much what this whole class is about, is communicating between you and the client, you and each other in a group, and you and the professor, me. Okay. So let's see what else. Okay, so the midterm, you'll basically do a thorough assessment. 15 pages is more of a guideline. If you're very good and very distinct at what you do, it'll be less. Hopefully it won't be more. And then somewhat interesting websites for a little bit of research. And then the final paper will be what solutions that you provided to the company and how you expect the company to execute them, or have you helped them execute them. So a lot of times, few people actually found a few jobs this way. So firm analysis. So we're going to talk this week, week 1, and then week 2, you're going to start your presentations and your papers, which will be emailed to me the day before class. So I'll have time to read them and make some just suggestions and get them back to you. And then each week will be the similar format. So I will discuss a few of the frameworks, matrices that you can use with your clients, with your customers. And then you'll apply those and then present them to me in a slideshow. And then also when you're presenting them to me, it'll kind of be like you're presenting them to the CEO, which you should be giving this information to your CEO on a weekly update. Integrity statement, you've all seen that information before. All right, so questions about the syllabus that you've already read right?
Yes, I have a question. So the midterm paper and the final is group work. All of it is group work, right?
Everything's group work. Don't you just
Okay.
love it? I know I don't like groups either, but this is the premise of the class is to work in a group. UCR set it up that way. I'm just following their rules. All right. Questions, concerns? We shall continue on. All right. So we talked about the syllabus. We're going to talk group section selections, company selections. We're going to go over those in a few moments. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about some generic strategies, the VRIO, which should be a review for everybody, core competencies. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the text, what you're going to get out of it. All right, so the groups, let's see here. That's not what I want. That's what I want. All right, so I need everybody in a group. Does everybody have a group? All right, who does not have a group, get into a group before midway through the class. And then I need you guys to start thinking about in your groups possible companies. So I want you to start listing the possible companies in here. Each of you should have an idea of maybe 2 different companies. You know, maybe a hair salon, maybe an independent coffee shop that you go to all the time, or even a Starbucks that's owned independently. You can also do that. So a lot of things. And then you all have access to this shared document. All right, so is there anybody who is not in a group? Put into the chat if you're not in a group, your name. You guys already have your GroupMe and WeChat all set up, right? All right, or whichever one you're using. All right. All right, so the firm that you're going to pick, you're basically going to be the consulting for that firm. You're going to solve a problem that they have. So what is always a good place to start off with evaluating a company? The SWOT analysis is always something that we like to look at whenever, for whatever reason, we're evaluating a company, because it tells us internally what the strengths and weaknesses of the companies, what they are, and the core capabilities, the competitive advantage. A lot of these small companies not necessarily will have a competitive advantage that you'll be able to see right away. But they have more of a differentiation advantage within their markets or in their small markets. So that's something that that you'll quickly recognize and you'll see. And then unique selling proposition. So many of them have this resource assets, and the people, you will see that the people are generally the biggest assets and the strengths in these smaller companies. So a lot of times these smaller companies, and especially these business owners, don't have MBAs. They don't know the data, how to collect it, how to use it. They have experience in their industry and they have a lot of knowledge, but they don't have a lot of the business theories and stuff that you guys know that you've learned in school. And I think that's where you'll be the biggest help to them. A lot of times people don't know how to price or put value or quality on their products. And sometimes they're leaving a lot of money on the table, and that might be something that you can help them with. And that's a lot of their weaknesses. Lack of competitive strength. You'll see that time and time again. Last time they did a bookstore, a little independent bookstore, and that bookstore actually had to sell a lot of other things in order to compete, because they can't compete with, you know, Amazon, Barnes and Noble online, a lot of things like that. And then the external opportunities and threats, market developments. Sometimes you can help somebody maybe develop a market where they can go online. The industry, with different industries, lifestyles, trends, and technology development. Maybe you can show them something that's innovative to them that you take for granted. And also niche markets. A lot of the times, especially for myself, having to be a small business owner, a niche market is something that we strive to be in, because we can't compete with some of these bigger companies. And but those bigger companies cannot meet the niche markets that's out there. Then we can actually make a lot of money doing that. Okay, so threats, competitors, obviously, technology. Look what happened to the taxi cabs with Uber and Lyft. Technology pretty much decimated their business. And Blockbuster is another company that was, you know, decimated by technology. So a business strategy, good business strategy equals competitive advantage in a market, knowing what markets to compete in or not to compete in when you get and when to get out. A lot of people don't know that sometimes there's just nothing left. They will hang on to dear life because that's all they know and that's all they ever wanted to do. So maybe, you know, you might have to make somebody come to the realization that it's time to get out and do something different. What unique value the firm will offer in those markets, the resources and capabilities required to offer that unique value better than anybody else in the market, and then ways to obtain the advantage by preventing imitation. A lot of the times when a successful business comes into a market, people will copy it. Other business owners will copy it, and they will pretty much take away the customer base. So core competencies, we all know what those are. This is review. This is just a few of many different core competencies that companies have. For every different industry and every different company, there is a core competency. Otherwise, that company would not be in business. So sometimes it's strategic planning. Sometimes it's the leadership and the personnel and the management. Sometimes it's just the attention to detail when it comes to customer service. So core competencies are as many and differentiated by as many companies as there are out there. All right, Porter, you guys all know him. His cost leadership, price, and cost strategy. Basically, we're talking about two different ways to make money. Differentiation, a step above, how your company presents itself, and cost focus and niche markets, and differentiation focus, niche markets that set you apart. So basically, the cost leadership is either you are a company that has the lowest price and gets the market share, or you're matching what the market is doing and you're taking a bigger profit. So you either take market share or a bigger profit. So access to capital need to invest in technology will bring costs down, very efficient logistics. And Walmart is a perfect example of this type of company. You're not going to see this in the smaller companies because, you know, this type of cost leadership, they're more of a differentiation type of company where they are, they have kind of a niche, they have innovative type services or products that they present to the market, and they understand the market very well, better than some of these big chain or box stores. So large organizations that pursue differentiation strategy need to stay agile, and they can't always do that. And that's why these niche markets pop up with these companies that meet their needs. So an example of that is Starbucks. All right. Well, I was looking at the chat. The type of business I'm in office equipment. So my competitors are Xerox, HP, some of these large companies, but I meet a niche market. And because I can differentiate my service from them, I'm able to take away customers or keep my customer base as opposed to them going to different companies. Okay, cost focus. So basically, it's either high or low cost for well-specified products, tend to build strong brand loyalty among their customers. There's certain people who only drive BMWs. There's certain people that only want to wear certain types of clothing. So they're building strong brands, and the focus is very, very unique to that product and to that brand. And for the people who can afford this, the $25 million for this little watch here kind of sets this company apart because there's only a few different, less than 1% of the population can afford or will spend money on something of that nature. So differentiation focus, IKEA is a perfect example of this, how they set themselves apart, their target segments, their unusual needs, or the product that they have. So you want really good quality, inexpensive furniture. IKEA meets that needs. Okay. Questions so far? You guys still awake? I haven't bored you to sleep yet? No? Okay. Whatever. Okay. So you guys are thinking about your businesses while I'm droning on and on and on, right? The companies that each of you probably bring one or two, and then you guys can discuss it in your group. Yes? All right, good. Okay, so core versus context. So core competencies, we're going to talk a lot about. Each company is going to have a different core competency. So the hairdresser or the hair salon is going to have a different core competency than another hair salon. So this is what drives the customers to that particular hair salon. And you want to invest in the core. You want to have many, you want that core to be strong, and you don't want the competition to be able to destroy it or copy it. So as opposed to context, which is, in a hair salon, you have the core competency is maybe the hairdressers do great color, they're all specialized in coloring hair. So, but they serve a drink, or they do men's haircuts. That would be kind of like a context of that type of thing. So putting too much resources into context, less into core, will deteriorate your company, and it won't strengthen the core. What you want to really do is differentiate. On context is a waste of resources, because what happens is you're spending a lot of money on things people, one, don't care about, and two, it's going to decrease the strength of your core. So for example, Chuck E. Cheese pizza, the context is the pizza. You don't go to Chuck E. Cheese for the pizza, right? I don't even know if Chuck E. Cheese is still in business anymore. The entertainment is the core. So they make all their money. The prime thing that they do is entertainment, the children's entertainment. Round Table makes great pizza. The pizza is the core. They have some video machines, as the entertainment. So basically, there's not much there, but it'll keep you occupied for a few minutes. So that would be an example of the context versus the core. So you want to leverage the firm's core competencies. So you want to invest in them. You want to give the business owners ideas of how they can strengthen their core competencies and how they can develop them. And then the context, it's okay to develop context, but they have to do it in a way where they'll strengthen the core competencies. Okay, so figure out the firm's competencies, leverage them in a different context, in a new product, in a new industry. Focus on the context, close the gap between competitors, And that's another thing too. If you have, 5 or 6, 7 hair salons within a mile, what are you going to do that your competitors are not doing? And are your competitors able to imitate you rather quickly or easily? So you want to be able to differentiate yourself from your customers, and you want to be able to bring that information to the CEOs or the business owners. All right. You guys have all seen this. This is the basic VRIO, valuable, rare, imitable, and organized. Okay. So just because something is valuable doesn't necessarily mean it's valuable to the company. So if you have a company and in your safe you have a bunch of bars of gold and you own a hair salon, that gold is really not going to do any good for your core competencies or building, your business up. So you don't want just this have value just for the sake of having value. You want to be able to have the value and be able to use the resources that value provides. Okay, rare. We all know diamonds are rare, so De Beers wants us to believe. So a resource that is uncommon and not possessed by many organizations is rare. But again, if you just have a bunch of diamonds sitting in your safe and you're in the hair business, that's not going to do you any good. But if you're De Beers and you keep the supply low and the demand high, then you keep your product that you make your product rare. Imitable, which means it's hard to copy or imitate. So for example, when Xerox first came out in the industry, they had the patent on the copier. They were able to sell the copier to the government, to large corporations. So they essentially had a monopoly on the business. And nobody could imitate it for quite a long time until the patent was over. But Xerox made a lot of mistakes. But it was in a way that nobody could copy it. Pharmaceutical companies are very much like this. They come up with a product, they patent it, nobody can make anything generic to it for several years. So they essentially have the whole market to themselves on that particular item. So in a market, you want to be able to have resources that other customers, or I'm sorry, not customers, other competitors cannot compete with. Okay, and organized to take advantage of what's going on. De Beers did this very well. They keep the resources scarce. They keep them valuable. And you can't just go dig up a diamond. You just can't start your own diamond mine. They pretty much locked in the industry. So if you try and do that, you have to join their collective, and you have to, abide by what's going on. Many companies during the COVID time have actually been organized to take advantage of what's going on. Look at what Amazon's been able to do. A lot of the shipping industries have taken advantage of this. Even Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A has refined and has become very good at this, where they're almost not losing any money at all now. They're actually making a lot of money. All right, before we move on to the McKinsey, questions, concerns? All right, so you're still all awake, that's good. All right, so we talked a lot about McKinsey. McKinsey, the Boston company, HBR, all these consulting firms come up with different models, different ways of doing things. McKinsey has a pretty good way that it's not so much going to help you when you're working with a small company, but when you get out of here and you start working for large companies, you'll understand how some of these levers work in these large companies. For example, when McKinsey talks about moving a company or implementing something different, they have what they call the hard S's, the hard 3 S's, the structure, the strategy, and the systems. And then the soft 4 S's, which is shared values, skills, staff, and style. Changing those takes a lot longer than doing structure, systems, or strategy, which can be done immediately. Okay, So the hard triangle, the 3 S's, strategy, structure, and system, and the 7S model can be moved quite quickly. So managers can be changed, processes can, structures can be changed, the strategy can be changed right away. So instead of doing one thing, we can do something else. And the systems, implementing systems into these companies, especially smaller companies, can be changed quickly. Even in larger companies, it can be changed quickly. Now, the hard thing is the culture, the style, the staffing, the skills, and shared values. Those are things that have taken a long time to build up. So obviously, they're going to take some time to, a lot of more time to change. So strategy, the plan or the process that creates situation, sustains and competitive advantage for a firm, and then the structure, the set organizational arrangements that divide labors and tasks, and then the system, the mechanisms and policies. So these are the hard 3 that can be changed quickly in an organization, as opposed to the soft 4, which take a lot more time. The HR process, the recruiting, the hiring, the training, the groups, the skills, individual skills. Sometimes I have a friend who's moving over from one company to another. He's going to Apple. So even though his skills and ability are going to be the exact same almost with the new company. So he's really not going to change too much other than working for a different company. So the style, interpersonal relationship, organizational members consider appropriate and legitimate, and then shared values, which is a lot of the culture and things. That is most difficult thing in an organization to change. All right, so when everything's misaligned, everybody's not going the same way. You want to look at how you can change these hard 3s, the division of labor, if it's a labor issue, if it's a coordination or control issue, or sometimes it's maybe the competitive advantage. Maybe somebody in the strategy is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and the strategy of the company is not working correctly. So the shared values, getting anybody to change their common beliefs or even their ideology is almost an impossible task. If you ever tried that, you would know that. Getting a large group of people to share a belief that they're not all on board with. All right, but when everything goes the same way, the company achieves competitive advantage and they're able to be very, very successful. All right. So before I start talking about the book, let's see where we are on. So nobody has any companies yet that they can think of. Ah, here we go. I'm seeing a theme over here for group 1. What's going on with that?
I work with some wineries and thought it would be a good idea to work with or to consult for them. My group agrees.
Awesome. So which wineries, what do you do?
Currently, I'm the marketing director for a company in the legal services industry, but I actually run a website called Temecula Wine Ratings. And before that, I did marketing for a couple wineries in Temecula. I brought a new brand to market a couple of years ago called Sweet Oaks Wine, and but with the connections to the winery owners has really come in the last couple of years with Temecula Wine Ratings.
Okay.
The goal is creating content to amplify the quality of the wine coming out of the Temecula region, because it's just not getting the same kind of attention that Napa and Sonoma and Paso Robles are, or Australia or anything like that. So
it's because Temecula wines suck.
You haven't been there recently, then?
I live in Temecula.
You're one of those.
I live 5 minutes from Temecula. I mean, from the wineries. No, some of the wines are okay, but most of them are terrible. I think South Coast makes a decent one. Thornton's okay. Hart's starting to finally come around.
Have you tried Vendimia or Vendimia?
No, I haven't. So there's only 150 different wineries in Temecula. So I haven't quite tried them all yet.
Only a few.
I know. There's quite a few.
Yeah, there are quite a few that are really good. And the quality of their product is coming a long way. South Coast is good because they literally have 2 biochemists that are making it.
I agree. It has come a long ways and it needs to go a lot further.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of them are okay. One of the wines, there's a good port that they make. I forget which one it is.
Blackjack.
Yeah, I bought it a few times.
I was their marketing manager for a little while.
Oh, okay. So what are the companies you guys thinking about? There's another one. Where do we go here? Vanguard Dynamics. Tell me about them.
Oh yeah, so I guess I can speak. So a couple of us in our group actually interned for this same company back last year. So and we know the owner pretty well, and so yeah, I feel like it would be a good idea. They're a luxury home audio industry, and they basically like create these smart home speakers that they can connect to like Amazon Alexa or any other Bluetooth device.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Very nice. All right. Who put Starbucks down?
I did.
Okay. Do you know the actual owner or manager of that Starbucks?
Yeah, so I know like the manager and the staff, but I'm not sure if it is like an owned or like franchise or something. I need to inquire more. So I just put it there to investigate further.
Okay. So when you guys do franchises, make sure, because a lot of times the franchises won't let the owners do a lot of things. There's a lot of procedures set into place. There's a lot of policy. So you're not going to be able to do anything major as far as changing goes with the company. You might, maybe they might say, hey, we want you to do a procedures or policy book or something of that nature. So it might be something very, very simple. So be careful and investigate them and ask a lot of questions. Isn't that right? Isn't that what consultants do? Ask a lot of questions.
Okay.
All right. So I can tell Dennis is totally bored because he was my TA for my undergraduate class, which is almost like this class, but I didn't make him do real life consultancy jobs. So a lot of review, huh, Dennis?
Yeah, I'm glad to finally be your student on the other side than just your TA.
Okay. You're just glad I don't have a paper due every week. Oh, wait, I do.
Yeah.
But you don't have to grade them. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. So what other companies do we have out there? Any other ideas, type of companies you want to do? Everybody's pretty much in this area, or do we have some people that are like out of the country?
I think in my team we have Danny, but I think he will be coming sometime during this quarter.
Okay. I know this is going to be a challenge the way a lot of the COVID things are, but most of the companies, well, a lot of companies, not in Southern California, but a lot of companies are starting to open back up and, are on site. But you guys have become experts at using Zoom meetings, right? So that's another a bullet you can use.
Professor?
Yes.
I also have an idea. I haven't talked about this with my team yet, but there is a car wash that is becoming very popular. They open up in, give me a second. Let me close.
People don't realize you can hear almost everything in the background.
Yes, I know. So I was saying that this is a car wash. They open in San Diego, and they have been growing a lot for the last 3 years. They opened a little one in Chula Vista, I think, and now they have expanded. They're expanding up North California. I think they have one in Temecula.
Okay.
And in total, they have like 7 or 8. I don't know if you have heard about it. Swappy Joe's.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like a good company. As long as you can get access to a senior level executive where someone who can make decisions. The
Mhm.
owner is always best for small to medium sized companies, but a manager or somebody who can actually make decisions, somebody you can actually talk to and get good feedback from. A lot of the times,
Okay.
going over the data is a lot of it is financial. A lot of it is, very, very, they want to be very protective of their financial data. So they're not always willing to share, which is fine. You can get around that. But make sure they're willing to share enough information for you guys to actually do some good. And,
Okay.
and that's pretty much the goal is I want you guys to actually be able to help the company, not just kind of, just go in there and say, yeah, I'm an MBA student. What do you want? I want you guys to actually solve a problem that the company's having. And if the company tells you they don't have any problems, they're lying. And the number one problem that most small companies have is cash flow. So, and then sometimes there's nothing you can do about the cash flow. It's just the way the industry or the company's set up. That's usually the number one problem. All right.
I have a question.
Sure.
So, are we able to consult for an online business?
You should be able to.
Okay.
You treat it just like a regular business. The problems are probably going to be a little bit different. Like you said, like I said, we're all Zoom experts now, so you can set up a Zoom meeting. And that's another thing, you're going to be needing meeting with these people on a regular basis. If it's not every week, it's at least every other week.
Yeah, because well, my sister, she owns a boutique, so it's strictly online. So I wanted to know if that would be like a good idea to consult for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Is your
Thank you.
sister going to take you seriously?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a startup, but it's doing pretty
Okay.
well right now.
Okay. As I mentioned, we had in one of the classes, we did a company where the student was a son of the owners, and they did a cake company, where they made wedding cakes and specialty cakes like that. They said, you don't know anything, they wouldn't give him any credit, and he's working with a group of 5 other people, and it was they made it very, very difficult on themselves because they wouldn't do anything they suggested, which is fine. I mean, you're going to run into that no matter what kind of industry you go into. So you can suggest all you want. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to do anything about it. So, and that's, the biggest problem that consultants run into. Even though the consultant's an expert, they're not always the expert in the industry. They're expert with a lot of the matrices and the theories and the ideas. But sometimes, they just can't grasp it. And it's a failure on both parts, on the part of the consultant and a part of the client, because the client looks at the consultant as somebody who doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. Okay. And I've run across that many, many times. When I do consulting for restaurants, I had this one guy in Pasadena who was just an idiot and wouldn't listen to anything I said. Finally, I just had to tell him, you're not working with me. It's not going to. And so what's going to happen is, what you're trying to do. And the problem was him. Everybody I talked to in the restaurant said, yeah, he is the problem. So if you can't change him, if you can't change the owner, if you can't change the problem, you're just going to spin your wheels and waste your time. So be careful with the companies that you pick. Make sure you can actually do some good. Make sure that the owner is willing to work with you. Okay. Questions? Other companies? What other ideas do you have?
Yeah, I have a question. So, is it okay to start to work with a startup company that is not actually started officially? So, I worked with a group of students from UCR. They tried to start the company, and they're still working on it. So I did my internship with them. But they're still working on developing the company and started.
Okay.
So would it be okay to have them?
Yeah, that's well, what are you gonna, I don't know, how many is there?
What was the question?
How many is in the group, the startup?
It's about 10 people.
Okay. And what are they doing? What kind of company is it?
So they invented new type of solar power. So they have in the manufacturing process, they did a new way of manufacturing the solar cell in a cheaper way. So they want to make a company out of it.
Okay. Have you talked to, can you guys see this? iCorps? It's a UCR organization. Have you, are they a member of that?
Yeah, yes, they're part of it.
Okay, good. All right. So they will help out. I don't know. You're gonna have to sell me on the idea.
Okay.
How would your consulting group help them? I mean, what kind of problem were you gonna solve?
Yeah, so most of their team are engineers, and so we would help them in the business part. Like we analyze their strength, weaknesses, and analyze the market, what market they have, what is the potential market, where they can sell, and so on. Like as you mentioned in the slides a little bit ago, we kind of implement most of this analysis into their business.
Okay. I think that probably will work. Okay. It's going to be a lot of work. So, okay. All right. Other companies? Let's see, what do we have here? All right. So we're starting to get more and more. So you guys are thinking about them. All right. Okay, so is there anybody, how many people? Yeah, all 54 students that are enrolled are here. Is there anybody that does not have a group? So everybody has a group. So now all we need to do is get everybody who has a company. Okay, so list quite a few of the companies, as many as you possibly can for each group. That way you guys can kind of vet them and see which ones would be a better fit. Like I said, you want to be able to have access to the company, to the CEO or the head of the company, and then we'll go from there. All right. So the two books that I recommended, Flawless Consulting and Rethink, Reinvent, Reposition, kind of tell you a little bit about the consulting process. The Flawless Consulting does a consultative type of consulting. I first read it when I went into sales many years ago. Actually, I've sold. That's how I do my selling. When I do sell is consultative selling. It's worked out very well. So that's a thing that that translates not just for consulting, but for sales and for marketing and for many other different parts of business. So, you know, it's not just for consulting. It's a good way to learn how to, you're basically dealing with people and how they feel and their feelings in business. It's not always just solving a problem. A lot of times it's solving issues that are political within a company. Like I said, the one parents who owned the bakery, it was more political because the son didn't know anything. All he was a college student, you know, and even though he worked in the bakery, you know, growing up and most of his life, you know, he still didn't know anything. But that's, you know, that's sometimes how they're going to look at you. All right, so let's go back and I'll talk a little bit more about the book. So Flawless Consulting is all about Being rational is good. However, focusing on interpersonal dynamics and emotions can be even better. So the bottom line basically is consultants need to understand the people and their emotions to be able to solve the problem. So the problem's not just something that is data or something that could be solved. There's a lot of emotions involved, and especially with the smaller companies are working in startups, you're going to see a lot more emotion in the problem than just a business problem. Whether it's a sales problem, a marketing problem, a production problem. There's always a lot of feelings involved in everything that's going on, and especially working with the managers or the owner. The flawless consulting basically takes looks at a manager point of view, not the CEO. Working with the CEO because it's more of a big kind of corporation. But a lot of these things, and the reason I picked this book is because a lot of these concepts and everything apply to small and medium-sized businesses of how you deal with people, the understanding that you have with the people, and the emotions that are involved. So great consultants not only tell you what to do, but they also show you how to do it by following their own advice. They lead by an example. And if you're going to be a consultant, it's important that you be honest and open. And that's something I want you guys to, really concentrate on, and is be honest and open with your customers, and hopefully with your clients, and hopefully they'll be honest and open with you too. All right. So these are the two books. So it talks, Flawless Consulting talks a lot about the power balance between the client and the consultant. A lot of the times, from the book's point of view, the consultant is a person that already works for the company and that has to act a certain way because since they are part of that company, the manager that they're working for is usually somebody above them, so they can't always say what they're thinking, or they can't always, they have to be politically correct. Your type of consulting, you're going to have to be politically correct, but you don't have, you're not going to be working within that company. And if you are working within that company, there's going to be other things that you have to watch out for. So the methods and techniques and consistent message of trust, validation between consultant and client, you have to reconfirm that constantly. Sometimes the consultant works with the company, sometimes they work without the company. But in both cases, a lot of times the consultant is powerless. Other than your expertise, you really don't have any power to do anything. And you don't, if the customer doesn't want to change, the customer is not going to change. If the customer doesn't want to work with you, they're not going to work with you. So the consultant works on two levels: cognitive, problem-solving, rational, explicit level, and then also the touchy-feeling side of the political level of the people that you have to deal with. So they're going to run into a lot of resistance. There's going to be a lot of tension, and there could be support or there could be confrontation. If you're an inside consultant, a lot of times what happens is they will send you to a department and say, hey, this is what we need to do. We need to change. And it's going to get a lot of resistance because the people don't want to change. So the flawless consulting responsibility: client comes to you an expectation, you will solve the problem. Your goal as a consultant is to do a 50-50 relationship and proposition with that client. You want them to participate as much as possible because you cannot do all the work. Some will want you to do all the work, but that's not really your job as a consultant. Your consultant is to get everybody involved. So everything from collecting data to observing how people are feeling, and pay attention to your own feelings. Sometimes you just won't be able to do the job because you just can't do it. So the trust factor is a big thing with the consultants and the client. A lot of times the client will not trust the consultant. They will say, hey, you don't know anything about my business, which may be true. You may not know how to make grapes or, into wine, but you know how to do marketing, you know how to do productions, you can show them all kinds of different formulas mathematically. on how to better, produce more effective, theories on certain things. But you may not know the whole process of making wine or be an expert at it. So consultants need to have right to and needs to in the relationship. So don't let the client walk all over you. Don't fall into a service mentality. It's like, here, just solve this problem, go do it, get out of my hair. That's what you're here for. Go do that. So if that's going to be the way they want their problem solved, it's probably not going to be very effective for them, and you're not going to get much out of it. So problem solving requires valid data. So make sure you'll be able to collect the data. The best way to collect the data is with them in a joint effort. So make sure the data is objective, personal data with politics of the firm. Effective decision make requires free, open, and choice policies. And implementation require internal commitment from the leadership. So you're not going to be able to get anything done if you can't get the leadership on board to go with you. Okay, the consultant's goal: establish collaborative relationship with your client, solve problems. And if you have a collaboration, the problems that you solve will stay solved if everybody's on board. Ensure attention is given to both technical business problems and relationships. And it is all about the relationships. It really is. Client commitment, logic, elegant words, solid conviction, strength. All of those are going to be meaningless if the client doesn't believe you. So be sincere. Client colleagues will experience doubt and block commitment. And a lot of times, if the person at the top says, "Hey, we're going to do this change," and nobody else wants to do it, you're going to have a lot of problems getting people to commit to it. Okay. The core transaction of any consulting contract is a transfer of expertise from the consultant to the client. Whatever the expertise is, it's the basis of the consultants being in the business. So if your major is a finance major and you have a lot of finance theories that you can apply, or if you're marketing major or accounting, bring your strengths and bring your expert roles to the client. Okay, the client consultant role. Client expects to play an inactive role. This is something that you don't want. Decision on how proceeds falls on the consultant. So they say, here you go, take it away. Don't bother me. Go take care of this. That's it. That's the type of client you don't want, because what's going to happen is you're going to do all this work. Client's not going to communicate with you. You're either going to go on the wrong tangent, or you're going to do something that they're totally not going to support, and the two-way communication is going to be very limited, and you're going to end up doing a lot of work for nothing. Okay, so a pair of hands role, which is the client wants you just basically take care of the problem. So they take a passive role. Decisions on how to proceed are made only by the client. You have a passive role. The client just tells you basically what to do. This is the problem. I want you to solve it. The communication is, here, this is what I say for you to do. Do it. The client evaluates from a close distance, and usually they won't give you any feedback until everything's done. And it's usually not that good of feedback. They're not going to be happy because they probably didn't communicate in the first place what they wanted to do and how they wanted you to do it. So you ended up doing it on your own, and you probably didn't do it to their satisfaction. So what you really want to strive for is a collaborative role. The consultant and the client work together independently. You guys do decision-making is bilateral, which means by mutual agreement. Data collection. When you're collecting a lot of data, you want to have as much help from the client as possible, or their people. You don't want them to skew the numbers or give you data that you can't use. So work with them together. Joint efforts, and it's discuss, negotiate, make sure that you guys are dealing with each other fairly, and be sincere. Always be truthful up front with what's going on. It's going to work best for both of you in the long run. So both is the goal is to solve the problem, and not only just solve the problem, but have it stayed solved. There's nothing worse than putting all this time and effort and sometimes a lot of money into something that you're going to change, and then nobody accepts it and they just go right back to doing what they were doing. Okay. So defining the initial problem as a client to state what the problem is and what to do and what to think. Deciding the proceed. You have to decide. This is like the initial phase of when you start talking to these companies. You're going to go through these steps and see if this company is going to be right for your group, basically. So selecting the dimension to be studied, you might have expertise in the area, but the client has operating experience. So for the example, with the wine, they have the experience making the wine. You may not have that experience, or you may, but they've been doing it day in and day out for many, many years. So they know exactly what they're doing and what they expect. Okay, and who will be involved? Obviously, the consulting team will be involved. Who's going to be involved in their team? The CEO, do you have him on board or her on board? How many from each department, depending on what your project's going to be? How many different departments are going to be? Are you going to get a person from each department or not? Are you going to get any feedback from those departments? So a lot of these things are very, very important for the success of the consulting. So how the data should be collected, select a method. The data collection, have the client present, representative of the client collect the data with you, not for you, but with you. And funneling the data, make sure you have certain ways that you want to do this. And the summary and the analysis, make sure the client is always involved. So the feedback process, obviously you want the client involved in the feedback meetings. You want to get the two-way communication. Once you establish a two-way communication, establish it at the very beginning and make sure it sticks. Otherwise, you guys are just going to be running in circles, and you're going to, they're not going to give you any help, and you're going to have a miserable time doing it. And that's another thing too. I want you guys to really have fun doing this. I mean, this is a project that you are probably never going to do in another class. And if you go to work for some other big company, you'll probably not do this again. So have fun with that. All right, questions about the consulting process, getting your foot in the door, evaluating what companies you think are going to be good, what companies you don't think are going to be bad. Questions? All right, so other than the first class, we're basically, I'm going to talk about different things that you guys can do with your clients for about 45 minutes to an hour. Then generally we'll take a break and then basically have you guys do presentations. That will be the format of the class. And then also I'd like you guys to also help whoever's presenting, give them positive feedback and maybe a lot of different ideas of what they can do, to help them out as a group with their company. So you guys are actually helping each other out a lot. So we'll make it a little bit more interactive. And then you don't have a group, Darren. Well, do you have access to the sheet here?
Sorry, Professor. I have to go now. Can you hear me?
All right, you got it?
Thank you.
So sign up with a group. And questions, concerns. I just have a few more things and then we're going to wrap it up for the evening. So who's looking forward to being a consultant? Anyone? Aaron? All right. All right. So no questions. All right. So for next week, 2-page paper outlining your firm's assessment. So hopefully you'll have a firm by then, and you should be able to kind of filter through the many different choices that you have, and then kind of give me a brief breakdown of what your firm does, the industry it's in, the strategy, if you have CEO access or financial accesses, and then put together a small slide presentation, the Peach Kucha style. I think that's how they say it. All right. So questions, did you guys watch that video about the presentations, the quick presentations in the syllabus? No. Okay. So basically, it's a very short presentation. The slides are not detailed like my slides. I sometimes go into too much detail on my slides, but I do that because I post them and then you guys can go back and read them. I don't remember what he said, but I remember the slides. Is a comment I always get. All right. So shall I cut you guys loose, or do you want to listen to me drone on some more? All right. Have a wonderful evening. I will stick around for a while, and then I have open door, whatever you want to call it, Mondays and Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. So it's like a drop-in. You can just I'll have the Zoom meeting open. You can just show up. It's the same link. And then Thursday nights from 10 to 10:30, I will have open door, open Zoom. You can just drop in. So if you have any questions, concerns, or whatever you need, we can talk about it. And then email me for other meetings if you want during office hours.
Hi, Professor.
Yes.
Yes. Some students were not here at the beginning, and I just want to try and reiterate Holy Faith Ministries, a religious nonprofit, and the benefits that attach to students who will join me. And in fact, I have an extra copy of Rethink, Reinvent, Reposition. The first student who will join me gets this free. Thank you.
All right. So if you don't have enough people in your group, you can either, we'll discuss that later. We'll see what we'll do. And then, all right, guys, have a wonderful evening.
Professor, for the presentation critique that we're going to be giving all the other groups, is that going to be something that we're supposed to write out for them, or is it going to be kind of more just verbal as we discuss in class?
I will post a sheet. So basically outlining a few of the questions, and then verbally you can go off of that. And then so you can, after they do the presentation, you can, say, hey, this is a great job, but I think you should do this or that or whatever. Yeah, so I'll write I'll post a sheet on and put it on iLearn. Sorry, I haven't switched over to Canvas yet. So we'll do that. Is anybody using Canvas? You guys are pretty much out of here. You don't care what the school's using anymore, do you?
I use Canvas.
Okay.
But that's the way I teach. I use Canvas.
No, I missed the deadline, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. And anyway. All right. So I will stick around for a few more moments. And then I'll be back at 10 p.m. if you need any questions or concerns. All right. Have a good evening. Good night.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor.
Thanks,
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Have a good night.
You do the same.
All right. Bye.
Have a good one.